Hello and welcome to Marble Rundown, your source for the most important Marble news of the week that you need to know. Now here's your hosts, Bob Ballmer and Dan Orboole.
It's true. This is Marble Rundown, and it's exciting to be here, as always, to bring you the best of what this week in Marble sports had to offer.
And we guarantee absolutely zero gloating about predictions that may or may not have been made on previous episodes.
We do not make that promise. You worried, Mr. Last Place?
No, not at all. Let's find solace in laughing at some of your mistakes, why don't we?
Well, again, there were a few rough patches last week, but nothing substantial for me, personally.
Dang it, Dan.
Well, okay, we were clearly having some camera issues, and we'll be the first to admit the editing wasn't super smooth. There were a few glitches, and we did have that one mishap where we said we didn't have an announced date for Marble 1, literally as it was displayed on screen.
Embarrassing to be sure, but not entirely our fault. We didn't have a date when we recorded that episode. They announced it literally the day after we filmed.
It's like they're trying to mess with us.
But based on what I can see, there was nothing critically wrong with what we said. Some people think I implied that Ghost Plasma DNF when they dropped through the bridge, but I think that's up to interpretation.
I think I'm on the fan side for this one. You blew it, Bob.
Rubbish.
So last week we determined that starting in the front row was a big deal on this course, so we had high expectations of those blessed enough to be in the front this week. And true to form, we saw Black Knight and Crazy Cat's Eye jump out in front early on, with Bob's pick Cobra close behind. We'll keep a close eye on Cobra.
I don't think we actually need to watch Cobra too closely. I picked a lot of teams over the years.
And what's this? Blazing Fireball in my top 5? Don't worry, it didn't last long, but it did definitely raise some eyebrows. So this top 2 led on their own for a good portion of the early race before Crazy Cat's Eye would eventually make the move for the front, and even hold it for a short while. But then came the most crucial course split we've ever seen. The top 7 were all running together for a while before this. Watch as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every single member of the top 5 takes the inferior path to the bottom and gets knocked completely out of the running. Who's there to scoop up these recently vacated spots? Why, it's Nemo and Ghost Plasma, ready to jump at the opportunity. And the rest of the race would really just be them, well out ahead of the rest of the pack. Nemo led all the way until a minute 49 into the race when Ghost Plasma, the most prolific third place finisher in the league, and my personal pick for this race's victor, claimed the lead. Meanwhile, nearly every member of that top 5 found themselves way at the back of the pack, including, well, will you look at that, it's Bob's pick. Cobra.
Again, picked lots of teams over the years. Really nothing to see here, guys.
The lead would tighten up a bit, with Marbly McMarbleface and Lollipop joining in the fray at the top, but it was Ghost Plasma's race to win, and win they did. It was a tight finish for second place, but it would be Nemo grabbing second, and Lollipop becomes only the second racer to grab a second podium this year, with a third place finish. At the end of the day, Dan's stellar pick placed in exceptional first place, where poor Cobra crosses the line in 20th. So no dramatic shifts in the standings this week, but Ghost Plasma manages to jump to first overall with the win, displacing Cool Moody for the first time since the end of race 2.
Now, I just want to say that if it weren't for that split, my Cobra would have had a top 5 finish, ahead of Dan, I mean Ghost Plasma, okay?
I mean, yes, but also no. I mean, dropping out of the top 5 is one thing, but to finish in last place after the fact? Cobra fell to pieces. That was a trash pick.
See, this is why I need so much time away from the show. No one should have to put up with this much emotional abuse. In fact, no anchor's ever been treated as badly as I have in the history of the channel.
Okay, but moving on, let's take a look at a few of the moments that really defined this race. I think it goes without saying that the top all-stars of this week's race ended up surprising us.
And not in the good way.
Yep, I mean, at least not if you're one of our previous winners. It came as a shock that all of the season's previous champs, like Dragon's Egg, Cobra, Crazy Cat's Eye, they all ended up way at the back of the pack, despite starting off strong.
Yeah, what went wrong and where did these league toppers bottom out?
Well, let's tackle the moment in the race that showed the ambition and drive of Crazy Cat's Eye early to get the top spot as they moved in and out, bouncing around competitors in an act of offensive strategy.
But the offensive approach came at a cost, with much of Crazy Cat's Eye's momentum being lost actually and dragged behind due to loss in what we call movement energy, and this resulted in a slowdown that eventually led to their downfall.
Speaking of downfalls, look at this first split when Cobra and Dragon's Egg were piled up because of the convergence of the two lanes, resulting in an overall momentum loss and slippage.
And take a look at Black Knight. I mean, who thought that hitting a speed boost of all things would slow you down?
Well, he didn't hit it in the way you would want to.
Regardless, the top 5 stayed, mostly the same for the majority of the race until that pivotal lane split that changed the trajectory of this race for the unexpected.
Also, huge shout out to Ghost Plasma for really optimizing that last speed boost, even after missing the first one, to become an uncontested first place winner. We've seen a lot of players struggle with holding a lead near the end, looking at you, Red number 3, and this was an excellent show of front running.
Speaking of Ghost Plasma, they ran an excellent race today, and I wish them the best. You know what? It's time for our player spotlight.
Of course. By the way, Bob, your bone to pick is with Cobra, obviously. They're the one that left you with egg on your face.
Give it a rest, Dan.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but at long last, Ghost Plasma broke through to a first place finish, and that's why they take today's player spotlight.
Yeah, after the most consistent season anyone has put forward so far this year, it's really great to see them rewarded with a win, before the winter break. They have far more podium finishes than anyone else. Actually, this makes a total of 4. For some context, there's literally only one other racer who has even 2 podiums. Imagine a world without that untimely DNF in race 5. Anyway, Ghost Plasma is really back in top form, the best we've seen since they won it all back in 2016.
And there wasn't anything drastically different about how they performed here, and honestly, that's the crux of this whole rally and why there's so many races. Look, the really good racers will get top 5 finishes consistently, but it always takes a bit of luck to get that enviable first place. What's the saying? You gotta be good to be lucky, and you gotta be lucky to be good. Put yourself in a position to win every week, and eventually, it'll pay off.
So now's that time where we pretend that we have a sponsor and cut to commercial break.
Oh, but we do today, didn't you hear? Today's episode is sponsored by Dan's Psychic Hotline. Call 1-800-TOP-PICKS for help finding your soulmate, telling you where you misplaced your keys, and for winning lottery numbers.
Always the comedian, Dan. Anyway, we'll be right back. So no big announcements to cover in the news today, but we did get some neat behind-the-scenes shot of Marbula 1 construction underway.
Yeah, definitely looks like we're going to be seeing some really cool vistas this year. Man, only 2 weeks away, I cannot wait.
I mean, it's gonna be totally gnarly, dude. Absolutely rad.
You are way too old to be doing this, Bob. With that news out of the way, it's time for that one segment with our highest paid analyst.
Odd choice of words.
How's it going, Drew?
Pretty good, considering that my camera was acting like the girl from Wreck-It Ralph last week.
Yeah, we might need to put more money into fixing that. And I mean, come on, you are a little overpaid, you have to admit.
But
What have you got for us, Drew?
So this week, we'll be looking at the most iconic moment of the race. You already know the one I'm talking about. The one where the top 5 took the bottom lane to become the bottom 5. I'm coining it the Schism. The Schism was a pivotal divide and volta in the race, turning from expected to out of nowhere, as the former top 5 fought each other restlessly amongst themselves to determine who would be on top. Black Knight made a lapse in judgment, which the others behind him followed. Blinded by the closing gaps and growing competition, Black Knight made a tactical error by choosing the bottom lane, where the rest followed suit and lost tremendous speed due to the zigzag motion and constant combination of hitting both walls and marbles alike. The bottom lane of the Schism was a cesspool of friction and momentum loss for the marbles, while the top lane was much more smooth, straight, and grooved for Ghost and Nemo to soar ahead and capitalize on the moment to move ahead. So there is, of course, a lot of controversy around this split. On one hand, it adds a lot of excitement to the race itself, and I'm sure you wouldn't hear the athletes publicly disparaging the league administrators, but on the other hand, it's incredibly harsh punishment for a single wrong turn. Even before this race, you could see how much it hurt Comet in the first race. I think the athletes were aware of the Schism's significance, but weren't properly prepared for it. Look, Things fly by incredibly quickly on the track, and it can be very easy to lose track of which turn you're approaching. When you're jostling for position with so many other competitors, it makes it even harder. And that's why I think it was that so many of the lead racers ended up missing the top path. No one went into this race planning on taking it, but it just happened before they could realize where they were. Contrast this with Nemo and Ghost Plasma, who had a bit more breathing room, and you can see the difference quite plainly. The schism provides a very popular paradigm for life. The popular path is not always the right one, and the right path is not always popular. Whether it's marble racing, or marble reporting for that matter, it's about choosing the path that you see best fits with your trajectory and live with the fruits or its consequences. This has been maybe a little too deep of a dive with True Discman. Back to you two in the studio.
What was that?
Were you even listening to me?
Sorry, hang on. I'm managing our Twitter page super quick.
Oh my... Bob, please tell me. At least you heard me?
Oh, Instagram has Reels now.
Just transition, Producer Jay.
Oh, thanks, Drew. See ya.
From the fans.
Man, was it a trip down memory lane going through some of the great interruptions and miscues in marble sports history.
For sure. So for some context, we asked you last week on the show, what are your favorite interruptions, miscues, shall we say, participation in marble sports history. So let's roll through some of the highlights here. So on the topic of Marbula 1, we had this instant classic pile up at Razway. Thanks to Josh on the Discord for reminding us of that one.
And we're reminded that Limers fans have been frequent disruptors, particularly across 2019.
The Balls of Chaos, somewhat predictably, have some unruly fans, and in particular back in 2018 here.
Wow, and there were even some people who agreed with you on the hair. Can you believe it? You've got a weird cult following, Dan.
Hey, Dan fans are the best fans. Shout out to you guys.
Alrighty then, enough of that. Okay. So this week we want to hear your official predictions for Marbula 1 Season 2. Everyone here on the show is very aware that Dan is a big supporter of the Green Ducks, and I'm an Oceanics marble myself. But what about you? Sound off in the comments below, and don't forget to use that hashtag QOTD. And that brings us to the end.
Of the universe?
Of the show. Wow, you're in a really weird mood today.
Yeah, that's what happens when events get delayed midweek. Throws my perfectly manicured schedule all out of whack.
Well, hopefully this upcoming low-stakes week will let you rest up. Take a week off, buddy.
Can't. You know they cry for another marble report? Must give the fans what they want.
Okay, well, we'll let Frank and Dan get some rest. To everyone at home, thanks for tuning in again. Why not give this video a share? It would really help the channel out. The more we grow, the more we can pour back into quality content on the channel. We'll see you all again soon.
Bye.